Welcome and thanks for tuning in. I'm Lynn Berger, host of Lynn Berger Interviews Remarkable People. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Duo Dickinson, a fabulous architect. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Can you lead us through your education and career?
Well, I think I'm a lot older than you. I'm a product of a Mad Men, mid-century family, meaning most of us that are products of the greatest generation were essentially told, go play or get an education. So like any number of people in my world, I went to private schools and my parents just paid for the private school and I had to figure it out for myself. So in doing that, I kind of figured out that by the process of elimination, that for no good reason, I should be an architect. And that was after taking courses in English and in history and asking the professors, because I was able to take courses at the University of Buffalo, and I said to them, well, if I was to do as much as I could, what could I expect in my career? And they said, well, you could end up becoming a professor and you'd write books and would be teaching other people to get their PhD. So I said to them at 16, I said, well, that would mean I'm teaching other people to be me, which means I'd be teaching other people to teach other people. And they went, yes. And I immediately said, I can't do that. And then I realized, well, why can't I do that? This is when you're 16, right? And it's because there has to be a tangible something at the end of this. Mm-hmm. Something. And I was going to sleep and I thought about it and I said, well, what I really do go to sleep to is thinking how things are made. Forget about architecture and Frank Lloyd Wright and all this other kind of stuff. I just think how things are made. So of course that meant immediately, I'm going to become an architect. And that then you immediately, because back then there was no internet, there was nothing, there were just books. So you see, what are the degrees in architecture? And back then there were two. There was a 5-year degree, which is called a Bachelor of Architecture, and a Master's of Architecture. Mm-hmm. What could I do to get me the degree as soon as I possibly can? The 5-year degree. So I say, what's the best schools in the country? Well, the best schools in the country were Stanford, Cornell, Princeton, Penn, and so those were the schools I wanted to go to. Then Stanford ended the program. So I applied to those three, and my best friend from high school was going to go to Harvard, which doesn't have an architecture program, so I applied to that too. So in one weekend, I take the bus to all 4 sites, unlike the parents that go to each one, spend weeks, do the thing, all this. No, I go to each one, and I talk to the people that had come to our school to talk to applicants. Mm-hmm. And I just said, I'm going to go to Cornell.
Okay.
So then I didn't have enough money to go for 5 years. So what I did was I accelerated and got out with a degree in 4.5 years. And to pay for that, I became a deep sea scallop fisherman to pay off the debt that I had. And then I went, long story, but I ended up working in Manhattan for a great firm, just a small firm, and then moving to Connecticut when one of the 5 architects I wrote said, yes, I have a place for you. And so he was in Guilford, Connecticut. And so I went to work with him because half the time I was working in a shop that he co-owned with another person, and half the time I was his intern. So for 9 years, I was working both in a shop and also as an architect. And I also coached football. So it's one of these things where the diversity to me means more than the directive, exclusionary path.
No, it was, some of your work is exceptional, absolutely exceptional. And also what is very interesting to me is that you write, you teach, we're going to get into that. You do a lot of different things, a podcast. And as you describe, what is a home to you?
Oh. Well, the home is actually this. The home is actually just us. There are 6-7 billion souls on the planet, and they're all of us, and every single soul is a person. Same thing with houses. Everybody lives somewhere, and every place that is a home, whether it's literally under a bridge, on the back of seat of a car, an apartment, a McMansion, a palace, you feel compelled just as who you are to make that place yours and not somebody else's. Even though everybody else has a home, your home is your home. So that idiosyncrasy in the universality of what a residence is has enormous appeal to me. In the profession, which is interesting, it is this strange place where architects have used it as a stepping stone to do other things. Like Richard Meyer, the famous Richard Meyer, did basically a house for his parents, and that became a thing, and then he did bigger projects. Same thing is true of Frank Lloyd Wright, same thing is true of Louis Sullivan, same thing is true with everybody except some pretty interesting people like Zaha Hadid, who just won competitions and did things. But the home, for me, isn't a job you start with or a job you do when there isn't other work, as many architects think of it. To me, it's the most noble way that you can use your humanity to make a tangible product. And the use of humanity to connect to other people is why I'm basically one of the very few, don't tell anybody, but overtly religious people in the profession, and why I do so much work in spiritual buildings. Because the truth is, that connection that we have to each other is the same as the connection we have to something larger than ourselves. And because if we were satisfied with just being happy or watching a video game or something, if that was it, then I'm not really sure life's worth living, right? So my sense is that aspiration, which is grounded in our universality, that's a sort of almost oxymoronic paradox of being a human being.
So you really go deep with with your work and the people you work with. How do you develop these relationships with them?
Well, the thing is, what's interesting is, unlike many architects, we basically are guileless. We don't have any pretense. We don't think of, and the great word in many professions is the word branding. You have to brand yourself. That means you've got a persona that's larger than any job you have, even larger than yourself. There's this movement to make you inevitably meaningful to people. That's just an excuse to me for not being open to connecting to people that are different than you. The things that everybody is the same, but everybody's extraordinarily different. I kind of know how to make things, how to build things. I just do. I've just done it my whole life. I frame it so they give me as much that they have of who they are. I go away and I don't just do a scheme, here's what you should do. I do 3 or 4 different schemes. And I say, well, you could do it. You said you like this, and we could do this. Maybe there's a variation of that. And maybe there's a whole nother way to do it. With absolute equanimity. I don't actually say, I want to do this. Every once in a while, and I mean this, it's every once in a while, in homes, a client will say, I want your house. It's horrible. It's horrible. Because I then have to somehow still see what their home through their eyes, but they've taken away the ability to respond in any other way except, do you like that to me? Which is not what a home is. A home really is each human being who they are. And what a good designer, whether it's an architect or anything, does is it sees the possibilities in the site, the building, and the person. And that includes the limitations of government and money and all that kind of stuff. And all this huge mantle now, really always there, but really important, of environmental fit and efficiency and long-term durability. Those things that I kind of know about, if I'm listening to the person, connecting with the person, I can bring those to bear to make the better home for them.
And what would you say makes a great architect in that?
This is a problem, because the truth is, this is really a problem. If you are a musician, you can play a piece and that person nails it, that woman nails it, if you nail it. You're a great chef, you like the food, you don't like the food. A great architect, I mean, what you should know is this. I've won 70 awards, I guess. many different types, very local, very weird, very small, very national, and actually a couple worldwide design awards for oddball things. This isn't like I'm some great guy, just that I happen to be recognized for some things. But the truth is, architects who live to be recognized by other architects, which I think is actually the majority of architects, they lose sight of why they were given the gift to see beauty. You see beauty not because of who you are, you see beauty for what it is. And you can't teach somebody what is beautiful, they feel it, they know it. You're there hopefully to show them what could be beautiful, and if it is, then you do it. And that's actually part of, I teach at the University of Hartford, and that's a great school for kids that are typically either commuters or left out of the classic architecture schools in terms of the ability to function at this ethereal level. It's more of doing buildings. But I also teach something called Building Beauty, based on the writings of a guy named Christopher Alexander. And the thing with that is, although he was this incredible guy that wrote all these books with an extreme way to design things, to do everything I just told you, to actually reach out, I don't do that. But what I end up his methodology. What I do is what I do, and all the people that know him and really love him see that I'm doing what he did the way I do it, and the result is the exact same thing, which is not the architect designing for the designer himself, but the architect bonding with first the client, but also with the site, almost in a soulless way, almost in a way that channels the larger thoughts of the owner, but also things that are inexplicable. And the thing about what Christopher Alexander did was he was so high in academic pursuits that he wrote 20 or 30 books and was a PhD in architecture, and he tried to legitimize everything, and I've given up trying to legitimize anything, except because the truth is I've had 6 or 7 employees for 40 years, built over 1,000 things. So the hay's in the barn. Either what I do is okay, or it's not okay. And I can't make something okay or make something not okay if it's okay. I mean, it is or it's not. So there you are.
Okay. And so this term starchitect.
Yeah, God.
Yeah.
It basically is that term starchitect is you. I think you'd mentioned to me that you're interested in thinking about how people want to become architects. Well, they think the classic dinner party or cocktail party conversation is, I always wanted to be an architect. The architecture has probably got the best PR of any profession that has no PR. I mean, I'm a fellow in the AIA, meaning I'm one of the 2,000 or 3,000 people in the country that is super groovy, right? But the truth is, the AIA doesn't make things groovy or not. They represent the interests of people that do this for a living. That's fine. But the truth of the matter is, a starchitect tries to do that branding exercise that legitimizes things that are so human that it transcends the reality of the context and says, I know the context, you don't. Let me spend your money to do what you want, what I want.
Right.
And that to me defeats the reason you're an architect. When you say the word starchitect, belittles it. And it does. It belittles the fact that you are just experiencing what's been given to you by the world and your clients, and by whatever talents you've literally been given. I mean, maybe you could say you worked hard, but you either are given something or you're not, and you make what you're given better by devotion. So people who hire me know that I am devoted. And we also don't get hired a lot. We end up doing about 30% of the work to start as pro bono work. About half of that ends up getting some money that's available, but about 15 or 20% of the work in the office at any given time, we get no money for, because it's for things that have no money. And so I make very little money. I mean, I really make very little money. And all my staff makes less money with me than they could somewhere else. But they know the reason why that's true is that we're doing all this work for things that need people that know stuff and are willing to work for less money, because there's something more important than money.
That's beautiful, because I don't think a lot of people can say that.
No.
Yes. Now, the fulfillment you get from that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
That's a really good question, actually. The problem, I think, actually, with performers, whether it's the chef or the musician, like I was talking about, or the fine artist, is that you can actually go to the product and say, see how well I sang that, see how beautiful that painting is, see how great that food tastes, and you can say the tangible things are paramount, that the outcomes are paramount. The beauty to me, and this is where it gets very esoteric and mushy and maybe silly, is the motivations of what you do, the motivations that you are merely given the things you can help other people to aspire to. That devotion, that motivation has got a bizarre level of satisfaction just when you're able to facilitate things. Now, the contrary quality of that, and this is really bad, this is bad, is every time I lose a job, because you get asked to do jobs and you don't do all the jobs you're asked to do.
Of course. I mean,
every time I lose a competition, and I might have won 70 competitions, but I've lost over 300. So it's sort of, every time I'm 69 years old, and every time I lose a competition, I'm the captain of my high school football team in 1972. Like I lost the game, I missed the tackle, it didn't work, and that sense of failure. Actually, to be honest, I think probably the sense of failure is the part of what makes you go on, not success. The failures just tell you got to keep doing this, because I care so much. The failure is saying to you, you can make this work, because you wouldn't feel bad unless you had made it work.
okay. And that keeps you going.
It keeps you going. It does, actually.
Okay.
I just discovered that saying that to you I think about the negative thing all the time. I mean, really great people that I know say to me over and over again, you don't remember your successes, you remember your failures. You don't learn from your successes, you learn from your failures. These are all true. But the other thing is true too, I think, actually. I think the failures make the successes have a meaning.
Beyond.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Now, I want to take a little bit of a detour.
Sure.
The field is changing. The world is changing. Can you spend a little bit of time speaking about, A, your attitude towards AI and what's happening with AI in architecture?
Well, this is, you could say it's AI, but the truth is I'm so old that I remember in the 80s when manual drafting using graphite and carbon to actually draw onto paper that you shone light through onto light-sensitive paper and make a print, or you went to a Xerox machine and it photographically reprinted it, and it was called Ozolid printing and all the rest, and everybody just totally lost it. They said, we're going to lose half the draftsmen, and in a way they did, right? So you lose about half the humans drafting these things. Well, then AI comes in, which is the absolute direct natural result of the computer. It just basically takes the computer and puts it on steroids and actually takes what we are and extends it into this world of unfiltered capacity to express. Well, the internet, almost more than AI, changed everything to the point where the only, and I do have a fascination or a devotion to history and stuff. The last book I did was really a history book. The only time like this that I've seen in America's history is the Industrial Revolution. And the only time I've seen that's analogous to this in world history, in the easy remembrance, is the Renaissance. So you have this huge cultural flip, and the culture is completely changed by something that isn't the humans of the culture, it's what the culture does. That's true with the Industrial Revolution, and now it's going to be true with technology, whether it's AI or whatever. AI just might be the most unbelievably hard to fathom what will result from this. But I don't fear it as many of my compatriots do, because the truth is it will eliminate jobs. They say it will make jobs. I just don't think that's true. I think there'll be other jobs that will come out of it, but it won't make any jobs. So my sense is that, I'm so old now that everybody that's working for me will have a job in architecture for their whole lives. But the kids I'm teaching at UHart.
That was my next question.
How
do you advise them?
Well, the first thing is I get, of course, at least 5 people a year come to me and they say, I think I want to be an architect.
And what class are you teaching that they're coming out of this?
I teach second year design, which is actually the best possible time. They know just enough that you can actually sort of talk about architecture as opposed to just design. And I also teach a seminar on the home competition that I do. So I do those 2 courses, and I teach design kind of, or theory I guess, whatever I'm doing for the people at Building Beauty. But when the kids come to me, these are kids that are not in college. These are the kids that are actually thinking about going to college, and even some of the kids in college, they say, should I be an architect? What? Because they see that I built all this stuff and I do all this. Should I be an architect? I think I want to be an architect. And in fact, one wonderful young man who was my intern for 2 years and then went on to go to Harvard Graduate School of Design and is now an incredibly good architect out in the field, comes to me and says, should I be an architect? And I say, well, no, there's really only one reason to be. There's one reason to be an architect. All the other reasons of the way you look and the fact that it's the mother of the arts, which is a strange phrase, that it's this really cool thing of combining technology and aesthetics, and isn't this great, and relevancy and social meaning and blah, 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 blah. All that is all whatever, that's true. However, there's only one seminal reason, and if you don't have that at the core of what you're thinking about, then you should not be an architect. The one reason you should be an architect is you can't do anything else. Full stop.
What does that mean?
That means no matter what I did, it would not make me fulfill something. But more than that, actually, I even think of it as another thing. When I do that, it's so consonant with me that I can't do anything that is not that. Because I'll know that I can't do that. And it's not about what you care about, right? You can care about a lot of things. It's what you've been given to do. I care probably more about playing football than I do about architecture, and I sucked. So if you're not so good at doing something, but you love it, you still love it, but you can't do it. A lot of people love architecture. A lot of people in architecture school love it and can't do it. And so they have to come to the conclusion, I can't do this, I can't make these buildings, but I can be part of what I love about architecture. So I ended up coaching football. I ended up having a son who played football. So basically, there's a point at which your desire does not equal your outcomes. Your motivation doesn't equal your outcomes, but your motivation is actually what makes everything possible. And so that recognition that you can't do anything else, that's the seminal motivation in your life, means that devotion is worth the fact that most of us make very little money. We make far less than the doctors and lawyers. We're much more akin to clerics like rabbis or imams or priests, because people believe in you, you're extremely important. And like a psychotherapist, if somebody doesn't believe in what you're doing, you are meaningless.
And in career counseling language,
there you are.
It's called a motivated skill. It's a skill you like and do well. You don't want to do something you like and you don't do well, and it doesn't work in the reverse. So that is exactly what I try to get across to my client.
What's interesting about that, though, is what happens in a free market economy is money becomes part of the judgment zone. So you say, well, I hate doing this, but I make so much money, I can do what I want to do with the money I make.
Well, if that's your overriding value, it works.
And I think it is until it isn't, right? Because I think there's only so much you can do that with money that satisfies you.
Well, it seems to me you found something that works for you.
Well, inevitably, yeah. I mean, it's not like I had any choice in the matter.
Well, one can debate that.
I could have done anything, I guess. But the real truth of the matter is that there's some things that in humanity that are absolutely elemental, and one of them is the manifestation of us beyond ourselves. So that when we make a building, or we make a meal, or we hear music,
Yeah.
that's not us, it's what we do. That is, to me, exquisitely meaningful.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, this has been wonderful. I want to ask you one last question.
Sure.
I don't know if you can answer it. What are you most proud of?
Oh. I guess a 45-year marriage.
Oh, okay. That's good.
You find somebody who is just who you should be with. That's extreme. Now, people are, what's your favorite building? That might be your question, right? What's your favorite building? It's so self-serving and stupid that it's just obvious. It's just my own house. So we built our own little one-bedroom house 41 years ago. We added on to it when my wife got pregnant with our first son 35 years ago. Then we built a barn next to that because it was an 1,800 square foot house. And then I spent the last 40 years essentially kind of trying to figure out how to take a terrible site on a salt marsh that's got no light, lots of salt poisoning, and rocks and poison ivy and all stuff. And we made it into a place which is just exquisitely meaningful to us.
The same place got bigger and bigger.
And it was a reflection of that marriage I was saying.
That is very, very nice. Well, I have to say, this has been wonderful. I could go on another half an hour with you because everything has such meaning to you that it just, you know, you don't hear so many people talk about their career in such large terms, connecting it to other things as you had today. So it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. And the things you build and create are gorgeous.
Well,
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to do the research, to
thank
learn
you.
about your background and the work you do. So thank you again.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much.